So, welcome friends. Today we are going to start with the second topic from plant physiology, that is absorption of water. First point, that is introduction about the water absorption. We know water, it is very important for all living organisms, including plants, animals, microbes, etc. It is also known fact that without water life is impossible. So water is called liquid of life or an elixir of life. An elixir of life or liquid of life, because without water no living organism can survive. Maybe a microorganism, maybe the animal, maybe the plant. So water it plays very important role for explaining the livingness of the organism. So it is called elixir of life. It is also known fact that about 90 to 95% of the plant weight it is made up of water, and it is essential for most of the physiological activities going on in the plant body. All physiological activities, for example, from seed, seed germination, production of new branches for water, absorption, transpiration, photosynthesis, respiration. So in each and every physiological phenomena, water plays a key role or important role. So it has its importance. So it is called the liquid of life or elixir of life. The next point, role of water in plants. So what role exact water plays in the life of plant in various stages? First role, water act as a medium for life. As already mentioned, for every living organism, water is essential. When we are concerned with the plants, so from seed germination to fruit formation or flower formation, water is essential. Without water, no any biological reaction could take place in the plant body. Second role, it as a medium for all metabolic reactions in cell. So each and every metabolic reaction which are taking place in the plant body, that may be anabolic or catabolic, there is a key role of water in all these types of reactions. So it has its role, importance in the life of the plants. Water also plays key role in breakdown of complex molecules like carbohydrates, proteins, fats. For example, in respiration, all these complex molecules they are broken down into simple inorganic substances, and during this breaking down or during this oxidation of these complex molecules, water plays very important role. For example, seed germination, when seeds are dry, when they could not come in contact with water, they will remain as it is for many years. But when such seeds comes in contact with the moisture or water, you can find that the seed starts swelling and cotyledons become separated and the embryo start germination. So this is the effect of water in that metabolic activity. Then water act as a transporting system. We know salt absorption, water absorption, this phenomena in soil, the water is present in the form of soil solution. Soil solution means it is the mixture of various types of nutrients, various types of minerals dissolved in the water. So that we call as a soil solution. And this soil solution, it is absorbed by the plant through the root system. Along with water, these nutrients or minerals they are absorbed, so that in this way water act as a transporting system for transport of nutrients, minerals, etc., etc. So it is also very important role played by water in the absorption of nutrients and minerals. Then water act as a raw material for photosynthesis. We know in photosynthesis, first step is photolysis of water. In the presence of light energy, the electrons excited and it leads to break down the water molecules in H2 and O, that is hydrogen molecules and oxygen, half oxygen molecules. So this broken down what we call photolysis of water, that is breaking down of water molecules in the presence of light or photon. So it is called photolysis of water, and this is the first step of photosynthesis. So water plays very important role in photolysis, so it has its role. Then water, it is the main constituents of cell sap. The cell sap, what we call protoplasm, cytoplasm, etc., it is made up of about 90% of water. So water is very important for maintaining the turgidity, cell sap or cell structure. It maintains the turgidity of cell. Turgidity of cell means the cell maintains its particular shape and size because of the water molecules, because of presence of water in the cytoplasm, because water withholds all the cell organelles at a proper position. And when we withdraw the water from the cell, then there is a what we say the plasmolysis take place. So there is a shrinkage of protoplasm and there is all cell organelles get gathered together, so the metabolism or cell physiology stops. So the turgidity of the cell, it is very important when the cell is turgid, so that it can follow the normal function. So normal functioning of the cell, turgidity is essential, and this turgidity is maintained by the water molecule. So it has its important role. Then water, it is a universal solvent. We know it is called a universal solvent because almost all types of mineral, nutrient, substances, they can easily get dissolved in water. So it is called universal solvent. Then water act as a medium for fertilization in the lower plants. Lower plants, for example, algae, bryophytes. Here, at the stage of fertilization, where there is absence of water molecules or moisture, then there will be no fertilization. So this is very key role played by water in the reproductive stage in the lower plant. So water has its role in fertilization. Then water plays important role in thermoregulation of plants. Thermoregulation of plant means maintenance of constant temperature of that plant body throughout the day and night time. So plant maintains the constant temperature because during the daytime when there is a hot temperature, then plant transpires more water. Plant gives more water to the surrounding, so that the plant around the plant, the temperature is maintained or regulated constantly, or cooling effect is produced. This is because of presence of water. Now the second point is mechanism of water absorption. Before going to study the mechanism of water absorption, we must know the structure of root. For example, the first figure, here we are seeing the root region, tap root, for example. There are three regions: root hair zone, root elongation zone, and root cap zone. The root cap zone, it is the apical region which protects the root. And when we study this root from the angle of water absorption, then we will find the central region, that is root elongation zone. It shows the maximum rate of water absorption as compared to root hair zone and the root cap zone. So this is a general structure of root and how it works for the water absorption. Then in the second figure, we are seeing the structure of root hair. These cells are the three cells which are shown in the figure. Actually, they are the epiblema cells, and on that cell, a single narrow elongated cell which is shown, it is the actual root hair cell. Root hair cell, it is living cell. It has a cell wall, plasma membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus, vacuole, etc. It is a living cell, and this root hair cell is in direct contact with the soil water. So from soil, water enters into this root hair cell, and then it is passing through the epiblema and to the other parts of the root, finally to the xylem of the root. Now, The path of the water absorption. General, we have the question that how water enters into the root, especially into the root xylem. To explain this, initially there was two theories classified into two groups: apoplast theory and symplast theory, to explain the entry of water from soil solution into the root xylem. It is a well-known fact that root hairs, they are the water absorbing organs. So first water from the soil solution enters into the root hair. Okay. Then from root hair that water will enter into the root epidermis, then cortex, then endodermis, then pericycle, and finally to the xylem tissue, that is vessels and tracheids of the xylem tissue, which are the water conducting tissue. Now, according to one group of scientists, from root hair, water, how it passes to the xylem. According to apoplast theory supporters, from root hair, water passes through the intercellular spaces and it passes finally to the xylem tissue. So here the water which is absorbed by the root hair, it is not directly entering into the root hair cell or cortical cells, but it finds the way in between the space available between the two neighboring cells, maybe epidermal or cortical cell. So in between two cells, that intercellular space which is present, through these intercellular spaces the water passes through the endodermis and finally to the root xylem cell as per the apoplast theories or apoplast concept. According to second concept, that is symplast theories, the group of plant physiology, they consider that water which is absorbed in the root hair, it passes from cell to cell, that is intracellular entry. From root hair cell it enters into the epidermal cell, from epidermal cell water enters into the cortical cell, from one cortical cell to the another, and finally in this way it is reaching towards the endodermal cells, and it enters into endodermal cells. From endodermal cells the water enters into the pericycle cells, from pericycle cells it enters into the water conducting tissue, that is xylem tissue. So in this way the xylem tissue it passes, and this was the primary consideration to explain the mechanism. Later on, various plant physiologists studied various techniques, methods to explain how the water absorption phenomena takes place. And so these theories of water absorption, they are basically grouped into active theories of water absorption and passive theories of water absorption. Active theories of water absorption, the plant physiologists which put forth these theories, they have the general consideration that there is a active involvement of metabolic energy for absorption of water. These active theories, they are again classified or they are again put forth by various scientists, and accordingly they are named by various names. For example, we are taking here two theories from active theories. First is osmotic theory of active water absorption. This theory was put forth by plant physiologists Atkins and Priestley. According to Atkins and Priestley, water enters into the root due to osmotic difference between soil water and the cell sap to the root hair cell. So according to them, what happened? Water present in the soil solution, it is highly concentrated, or its osmotic pressure is high. So water enters into the root hair cell because root hair cell has low osmotic pressure. So this diffusion pressure deficit or DPD gradient between root hair cell and soil solution leads to enter the water from soil solution into the root hair cell. Root hair cells are in direct contact with water. So soil water enters into the root hair and into the interior of root due to osmotic gradient. That is, when water enters into the root air cell from the soil solution, then osmotic pressure of the root air cells is decreased and osmotic pressure of the surrounding epiblema cells or cortical cells is naturally it is high. So what happens, water from root air cell automatically enters into the cortical cells. Like that, from cortical cell it will enter finally into the xylem tissue. So this diffusion or osmotic pressure difference between one cell to other, it leads to transport of water from one cell to other and finally to the xylem of the root. And similarly, the root xylem, as it gets continuously flow of water from the root hairs, so its diffusion or osmotic difference it reduce, and as compared to osmotic difference or osmotic pressure of the stem xylem, so water automatically pulled by the stem xylem from the root cells. Then from root stem xylem, water is pushed to the, or it is pushed by the leaf xylem cell. In this way, water from soil solution it enters to the root, to the stem and the leaves. Then this theory has some objections or demerits. For example, according to this theory, as it's considered due to water absorption due to osmotic gradient or due to the difference in the root pressure. So this osmotic gradient difference, which they consider, such a pressure or such a gradient difference, it is not sufficient to rise the water column in the xylem. For example, in higher trees, water has to pass to hundreds of meters height, but the root pressure which was calculated or which were observed in the plant, it was very minimum, limited, and it is observed that this type of root pressure it could not push up the water up to the plants having the height more than 100 feet. So this theory has this strong objection. Second objection is that sometimes root pressure is observed to be negative. Many times it is observed that root pressure in plants it is negative, and so when it is negative, so there is no question of water absorption. So in such a condition, water should not be absorbed, but instead the water should move out of the root. म्हणजे प्लांट्समध्ये सॉइल सोल्युशनमध्ये मधून पाणी प्लांटमध्ये न येता प्लांटमधलं पाणी बाहेर जायला पाहिजे, बिकॉज वेन द रूट प्रेशर इज नेगेटिव्ह. सो दिस इज नॉट एक्सप्लेन बाय this osmotic theory. Third objection to this theory is that when we cut the fresh leaves, then this cut part of the leaves, it is observed that they absorb water in absence of the root. If there is no root, even these leaves, when the leaves cut and put into the water, they can absorb the water. Or when we cut the twig and put into the colors water, then that color water is absorbed by that cut part. So it doesn't explain how that in the absence of water root, how that water can be how it is absorbed. So this theory does not explain the exact mechanism. So there are another group of scientists which put forth another theory for the active after water absorption, that is called non-osmotic theory. Non-osmotic theory, this theory was put forth by Thieme and Kramer in 1959. According to this theory, water absorption is active process and occurs due to non-osmotic reason against the gradient of osmotic pressure. फर्स्ट थेअरीमध्ये जसं त्यांनी कन्सिडर केले होते की ऑस्मॅटिक थेअरीमध्ये की ऑस्मॅटिक प्रेशर फरक डिफरन्स त्यांच्यामध्ये असतो, म्हणून पाणी सॉईलमधून रूट एअरमधून कॉर्टेक्समधून रूटच्या झायलेममध्ये किंवा रूटच्या झायलेमधून स्टेम झायलेमध्ये, स्टेमपासून लिपमध्ये अशा पद्धतीने ते ऑस्मॅटिक डिफरन्स असल्यामुळे ते पास होतं. परंतु थिमेन अँड क्रेमरच्या थेअरीच्या म्हणण्याप्रमाणे देर इज ॲक्टिव्ह प्रोसेस ऑकर्स ड्यू टू नॉन ऑस्मॉटिक रिझन. इथं असं असला कुठलाही ऑस्मॉटिक डिफरन्स किंवा ऑस्मॉटिक ग्रॅडियंट डिफरन्स नसतो या थेअरीच्या म्हणण्याप्रमाणे. अँड दॅट वॉटर इज पास्ड फ्रॉम सॉइल सोल्युशन to the root or to the xylem of the root, stem, leaf, etc., it is happening on the cost of energy. That is, we call it as an active because it involves the use of energy, and this energy here this theory considers, while earlier osmotic theory do not consider the involvement of energy, but here non-osmotic theory consider involvement of energy for the absorption of water. And we know from where that energy comes. That energy comes from the respiration. During the respiration, the oxidation of food, which releases the energy in the form of ATP1 and ADPase2, that energy it is utilized for the absorption of water as per the non-osmotic theory. So this theory has certain merits and demerits also. What are the merits of this theory? First, the plant will in flooded soil, as soils are non-aerated, so roots cannot undergo aerobic respiration. When we put any plant in the flooded soil, then that plant will naturally, when we consider the water is absorbed, when water is plenty of available, the plant should absorb and it should grow. But when that plant or roots they are flooded with water, then that plant wilts. We naturally observe in the fields also, when any crop field is continuously flooded with water for 8 to 10 days, then entire crop in that field gets wilted, it gets yellow and finally dried, because of non-aerated soil, or because in that soil due to flooding water there is no aeration, so root cells cannot undergo respiration, and as no respiration, no energy produced, and so no plant cells dies. It indicates that water absorption takes place by living cell only under the aerobic condition. Dead cells are not they are not able to absorb water, but only living cells perform the function of water absorption, and that too only in the aerobic conditions. They require air, they require oxygen. Why they require oxygen? Because each and every cell undergoes respiration. For respiration, oxygen is essential, and by respiration the energy is released, and this energy is utilized for the water absorption. So this theory has its merit. Then third merit is respiratory inhibitor, for example potassium cyanide. This respiratory inhibitor, when we apply to the plant, then rate of respiration is inhibited. Similarly, it was observed rate of respiration as it is reduced. By the way, rate of water absorption is also reduced or inhibited. So what it indicates? Inhibitor, respiratory inhibitors also inhibit the rate of water absorption. It means respiration is essential for water absorption, because respiration provides energy which is essential for water absorption. So that is its merit. Third merit of this theory is that diurnal fluctuation in rate of transpiration reflects the water absorption process also. Means when there is increase or decrease in temperature, or increasing decreasing the rate of transpiration, it is observed that it affects directly on the water absorption also. Means when the rate of transpiration is high, the rate of water absorption is also high. When rate of transpiration is low, rate of water absorption is also low. So it is having this interrelation. So this is practically it has also been proved. So these are the 3-4 important merits of this theory. It has one demerit for this non-osmotic theory. What is that? It is how this respiration energy is used for water absorption. It is not explained. Means respiration produces energy, and that energy utilized for the water absorption, as this non-osmotic theory proposers consider. But they do not explain how that energy utilized in the what way for the water absorption. It remains unexplained.